Prejudice speaks loud, but dignity doesn't need to shout. When truth stands tall, arrogance falls silent. And sometimes the most powerful justice is not revenge, it's revelation. Remember, greatness wears no color. Respect knows no race. And the next time you think someone doesn't belong, look closer. You might just be standing in their house. This is the story of a man, Michael, who was asked to leave a supermarket by a white woman before she could shop, not knowing he owns it. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more wonderful stories. The automatic doors of the supermarket slid open with a low hiss, letting in a gust of crisp morning air. The lights were already on, casting a clean glow over the glossy floors of Bright Mart Supercenter. Shelves gleamed with fresh stock. The smell of baked bread drifted faintly from the in-store bakery, mixing with the scent of disinfectant. The calm before the rush. It was 7:45 a.m., 15 minutes before official opening. The only sound was the rhythmic squeak of a janitor's mop and the quiet hum of refrigeration units. Then came footsteps. Slow, steady, confident. A tall black man in a gray hoodie walked in, keys jingling at his side. He looked around, surveying the aisles, not like a shopper, but like someone who carried responsibility. His name was Michael Carter. To the world outside, he looked like any other early customer. But today, he was there for something different, a quiet inspection before the day began. As he turned into the produce section, picking up an apple to check for bruises, a sharp, condescending voice echoed from the entrance. "Excuse me." The tone wasn't friendly. It sliced through the calm like a knife. Michael turned slowly. A white woman stood by the door, clutching her designer purse as if she had just walked into danger. She was in her mid-50s, perfectly pressed blazer, pearls, a head held high with entitlement that filled the room. Her name was Karen Mitchell, a name that carried volume even when spoken softly. She looked him up and down, eyes narrowing as if she was confirming a suspicion she'd already made up in her mind. "You can't be in here," she declared loudly, pointing toward the exit. "The store isn't open yet. You people always think you can bend the rules." Michael froze, disbelief crossing his face. "I'm sorry, ma'am. The door was open. I'm not—" "I don't want excuses," she interrupted, waving her hand as though swatting away a fly. "I come here every morning. The staff knows me. This isn't some—" She looked him up and down again, free for all. A few early employees glanced up from the bakery counter and checkout stations, hesitant. No one spoke. Not yet. Michael kept his composure, even as the air thickened with humiliation. "Ma'am, I'm not here to cause trouble." "Of course you're not," she sneered. "That's what they all say before something goes missing." Her words landed like stones. A few customers waiting outside watched through glass, whispering. Inside, a young security guard shifted awkwardly, unsure what to do. Karen turned toward him sharply. "Well, are you going to do your job or not?" The guard hesitated. "Ma'am, I'm sure—" "Don't ma'am me. Remove him. I don't feel safe shopping with people like that just walking in here." The silence that followed was suffocating. Michael's jaw tightened, but his eyes stayed calm, deep, steady, unreadable. He could have defended himself. He could have shouted, but he didn't. Instead, he turned to the young guard and said quietly, "Call your manager." Karen crossed her arms, smirking slightly. "Oh, I'll do better than that. I know Rebecca. She's a manager here. We're practically friends." She strutted to the customer service counter, heels clicking like a gavel in an empty courtroom. Within moments, Rebecca, the manager, appeared, early 30s, anxious, clipboard still in hand. Her eyes widened when she saw who was standing in front of Karen. "Oh, Mr. Carter." Karen cut her off. "Rebecca, thank God. Please, tell this man to leave." He walked in before opening. "I don't know what he was planning, but it's unacceptable. You can't just let anyone wander around before customers are allowed in. This isn't some community hangout." Rebecca looked torn, her mouth opening and closing as she tried to find the right words. "Mrs. Mitchell, No, don't Mrs. Mitchell me. Just do your job. You're going to lose good customers if you start letting random people in before hours. I've been shopping here for years." I know how this place works. The tension was unbearable. Employees had stopped moving. The guard looked down. And through it all, Michael stood motionless, his expression calm but his silence heavy, like thunder gathering beneath still skies. Finally, he took a slow step forward. "Mrs. Mitchell," he said, his tone composed, almost polite. "You seem very concerned about who's allowed here." "I am," she snapped. "People like you always find a way to break rules and then play the victim." He nodded slowly, as if considering her words deeply. "Interesting." She scoffed. "What's interesting about it?" "That you think you know who belongs here," he said. Karen rolled her eyes. "I don't think. I know." Michael exhaled softly and reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small silver key fob with a bright Mart emblem engraved on it, the kind only executives and owners had. "Then you'll want to be very sure before you demand that someone leave your property," he said, his voice calm but razor sharp. Karen blinked. "Your property?" Rebecca swallowed hard, stepping forward. "Mrs. Mitchell, this is Michael Carter. He's not a customer." Karen frowned, confused. "Then what is he?" Rebecca's voice trembled slightly as she spoke. "He's the owner. He bought the entire chain 2 years ago." The world seemed to stop. The humming of the lights, the whisper of the air conditioner. Everything fell silent. Karen's face drained of color. "To the owner?" Michael met her gaze. Steady, unflinching. "Yes. Every shelf you walk past, every aisle you shop in, every employee you complain to, they all work under my name." The words sank like stones into still water. The employees straightened. The guard lowered his eyes. Even the customers outside stood frozen, watching the scene unfold through the glass. Karen's voice faltered. I didn't realize. I thought." "You thought wrong," Michael said gently, but his eyes carried the weight of generations behind them. "And that's the problem, isn't it? People think they can tell worth by looking at skin. You didn't ask. You assumed." She opened her mouth, but no words came out. He continued, his voice steady and powerful. "You wanted me gone before anyone could shop, not realizing I made it possible for you to shop here at all." Karen's lips trembled. "Mr. Carter, I didn't mean—" Michael took a step closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "The thing about prejudice," he said softly, "is that it blinds people. It convinces them they're seeing clearly, until truth turns the lights on." Her eyes filled with something between guilt and fear. And just then, Rebecca's walkie-talkie crackled. "Mr. Carter, the board is here. They're waiting for you in the conference room." Michael gave a small nod. "I'll be right there." He turned to Karen once more. "Enjoy your shopping, Mrs. Mitchell. And remember, respect is free, but losing it can cost everything." He walked away, leaving behind a silence so complete it felt like judgment itself. Karen stood still, clutching her purse, the realization dawning that her arrogance had just written her humiliation. The onlookers pretended to browse, but their eyes followed him as he disappeared into the back office, the quiet echo of his footsteps leaving a trail of reflection behind. Karen turned to Rebecca, her voice barely a whisper. "He's really the owner?" Rebecca nodded slowly. "He is. And he's also the reason half the staff here have health insurance and scholarships for their kids. You didn't know because you never cared to ask." Outside, the automatic door slid open again and sunlight poured in, bright, unflinching, honest. Karen looked toward the light, but couldn't move. Shame held her still. And somewhere in the back office, Michael Carter straightened his tie, his calm face now replaced by quiet determination as he prepared for a meeting that would decide the future of every Bright Mart store in the state. The automatic doors of Bright Mart slid shut behind Michael Carter as he walked down the quiet corridor toward the conference room. The humiliation from earlier still lingered faintly, not for what had been said to him, but for what it revealed. He wasn't angry. He was reflective. His steps were measured, deliberate, the stride of a man who knew that justice didn't always roar. Sometimes it whispered. Inside the conference room, a half-dozen executives sat around a polished table. They straightened when he entered, offering polite greetings that barely masked their unease. Some had already heard whispers of the morning's incident. Mr. Carter, began Richard Hale, the regional director, adjusting his tie. We heard there was some kind of misunderstanding at the Glendale branch. Michael gave a small, knowing smile. A misunderstanding, yes, though not mine. He placed his folder on the table and looked each person in the eye before sitting. A woman, a regular customer, demanded that I be removed from my own store this morning, claimed I didn't belong. Richard chuckled uneasily. Well, that's unfortunate. I'm sure she didn't mean anything by it. Michael leaned forward slightly. That's what people say when they don't want to confront the truth. Unfortunate. A misunderstanding. Didn't mean anything. But I need us to mean something, because silence is also a choice. The room went still. He continued, his voice calm but firm. What happened this morning wasn't about one woman's ignorance. It's about a culture that quietly tolerates bias until it explodes in public. And if we're serious about the values on our company wall, respect, fairness, community, then we can't just quote them. We must live them. A few executives nodded. Others avoided his gaze. Michael took a breath. Starting today, Brightmart will implement a new code of ethics, mandatory anti-discrimination training for all staff, clear rules on how customers treat employees, and a zero-tolerance policy for racial harassment. I don't care how much someone spends here. If they can't treat people with dignity, they're not welcome. One executive frowned. Sir, that could alienate some long-term customers. Michael's eyes hardened. Then they were never the kind of customers we wanted. The silence that followed wasn't resistance. It was respect. Real, earned respect. He closed his folder, stood, and added quietly, the strength of a company isn't measured by profit. It's measured by principle. When he left the room, no one said a word. The echo of his footsteps was enough. Hours later, the store was alive again. Shoppers filling aisles, laughter and chatter replacing the tension of the morning. Michael walked through the store one last time before heading out. Near the produce section, Karen Mitchell stood frozen, holding a basket but unable to shop. She had been there for a while, watching him from afar, too ashamed to speak, too convicted to leave. When she finally gathered the courage, she approached him quietly. Mr. Carter? He turned. His expression was calm, unreadable. Yes. She swallowed hard. I owe you an apology. I was wrong. I judged you and I embarrassed myself. I can't tell you how sorry I am. For a moment, he said nothing. The weight of her guilt hung in the air. Then, with quiet grace, he said, You don't owe me words. You owe the world change. Tears welled in her eyes. I will change. I promise. Michael nodded slightly. Good. Because one person's awakening can be the start of another's understanding. She looked down, ashamed but grateful. You could have humiliated me back there. I could have, he said softly. But that would make me like the people who think dignity is something you can take away. I'd rather remind them that dignity can't be destroyed, only revealed. Karen nodded slowly, her eyes glistening. Thank you for not being what I assumed. Michael smiled faintly. That's the beauty of truth, Mrs. Mitchell. It never needs permission to exist. She watched as he walked away, the very man she had disrespected hours earlier now walking with unshakable calm, owning not just a supermarket, but the space of respect she had once denied him. As evening settled, Michael stood outside the store. The sun dipped low behind the Brightmart sign, painting the sky in hues of gold and amber. He watched customers coming and going, all colors, all backgrounds, all equal in their small moments of ordinary life. He thought of his grandmother's words. One day, they'll see you not for your skin, but for your soul. Until then, stand tall anyway. He smiled faintly, locking the doors for the night. The reflection in the glass showed not just a man, but a movement, quiet, steady, unstoppable. As he turned to leave, Rebecca, the store manager, called after him. Mr. Carter, that woman, Mrs. Mitchell, she stayed behind after you left. She asked if she could fund a scholarship in your company's community program, in your grandmother's name. Michael stopped, surprised. Then he nodded, humbled. That's a start. Rebecca smiled softly. You really changed something today. He looked toward the setting sun. No, he said. Today just reminded the world that respect isn't optional. It's overdue. He walked away, the orange light wrapping around him like a crown. Quiet justice made visible. Moral lesson. Dignity is not given. It is owned. Respect is not earned through wealth or status, but through how we treat others. Never judge a person by what you see, because the truth may be standing right before you, quietly rewriting what power really means. Hope you learned something through the story. Let us know in the comment section, and please don't forget to subscribe for more exciting stories.